If you're like me, you love the outdoors and exploring this amazing creation that we have to live in. But too often, one of the things that I think is overlooked are medical kits, and well-stocked medical kits that are set up in such a way that you can get to the items that you need in that emergency situation. Too often I find people that are just using maybe like a Ziploc baggie, maybe they have some Band-Aids, a little bit of ointment, maybe some itch cream. If you're lucky, you get an ace bandage. That's about it. But just as important as a good backpack, as good shoes, gear, whatever it may be, is a good, well-stocked medical kit. And you don't have to pay an arm and a leg to make that happen. So that's what I want to discuss with you today, is how can you build with a toiletry bag a medical kit for 50 bucks or less. Some essential items to throw in there to get the ball rolling so that in the future you can begin to augment and add more and more higher priced but more essential items down the line. So that's what we're going to discuss today, is a starter medical kit for you for under the $50 price point. So let's tear this thing open and start looking at it. So here we are back at the homestead. Let's go ahead and bust this little guy out. And what I love about this, and this is a mountaintop what's it called, toiletry bag, and what I love about it is that this thing's gonna run you about 10 bucks. It's got a nice grab handle. It's water resistant material, so you know, if it was raining or something like that, it's gonna take a long time for it to try and soak through and damage any of your medical supplies in here. And you can get it in many different colors, including red, which obviously almost everyone world round would know is a medical kit. So some other things as we begin to look at this that I want to touch on. First off, you take everything that I share with you at your own risk. I am not a medical professional. This is just what I'm sharing with you, having experienced multiple different injuries on the trail and giving you some ideas to get the ball rolling, because it's so important, I believe, to have a good stocked medical kit. This is just get your foot in the door, know that you have something that is rather reliable, that's going to handle a lot of injuries that you would have on the trail. And then as time goes on, we're also going to be releasing videos here in the next several weeks of different size and different price pointed medical kits. So be ready for that. So again, take everything at your own risk and know what you're doing when you are applying these different items that I'm about to share with you. And finally, there will be a link in the description below for all of the items that you're going to see here today. So you can just click on that. It'll take you over to Amazon, and that makes it very easy for you guys to purchase the items that you're going to see here. You don't have to try and remember it and write it down, then go hunt for it and try and find it. And it also helps support what we do here and keep us a viewer funded channel. So with that, the things that I really like, as I said, red grab handle, like that a lot. On the back side here, we've got this zipper run of a pocket that I like to put a couple gloves in. These are latex-free gloves. Something to note, some people can be allergic to latex, so get latex-free gloves, and that will help in an emergency situation to keep you from infecting a wound, possibly, and just the sharing of bodily fluids. So something to think about there. Then we got our two zippers here, and you could easily attach, you know, like little pieces of paracord to that, so it makes it a lot easier to grab and open up. Something to consider as well. So you open this little bad boy up, and as I said, it is a toiletry bag, so it does have this little hook in here. It's a little plastic hook, so you could hook it onto things, or if, for me, honestly, I would just cut this off. It's just a little piece of nylon here, so it's not flapping around. So right now I just kind of have it hooked away. So right here we have this mesh pocket, so you can kind of see what's going on. And as we open it here, two things to note. First off, we got painkillers, and we have anti-inflammatory pills as well. So if someone's having an allergic reaction, Benadryl is what I have in here. So lots of different things and uses that can, you know, be used in that. And then I just have a little Ziploc baggie, just kind of keep everything nice and tidy. For a couple Band-Aids, always good to have a couple different sizes, and tweezers. That's a big one. Tweezers to pull out splinters, deal with stuff that maybe is a little too delicate that your fingers just can't handle. And then I do have some iodine wipes in here as well. So that's a good way. You can stock this little pouch here full of different size Band-Aids if you wish. And that's just a great, easy way to get access to those items. Then as we move along here, what I want to hit on first is like the emergency stuff. You're like, whoa, there's a really big problem here. The first thing that I have is an item called Celox. And what Celox is a blood clotting agent. And so if there is a big wound going on, you pour this in and it will clot the wound. Know what this cause, the pros and cons, the side effects of this before you purchase this and would apply this to yourself or someone else. So just be aware of that. But I do carry some of those, and that is good, particularly in the backcountry. If there is a wound, you're hiking and you stumble and you impale your leg into something, there's just a gash with maybe a tool that you're using, a knife, an axe, whatever it may be, a saw. That's a good way to get that blood flow stopped. Behind that, we have an introductory tourniquet compress bandage. It's a 2-for-1. This is called a SWAT tourniquet, so it'll run you about $12. It's basically a giant rubber band. Think of it that way. And I've used this on a buddy of mine who had a really bad gash. We used it initially as a compress, ended up having to use it as a tourniquet and cut off blood flow. And when he got to the doctors told him, hey man, if you hadn't had that on you, you would have probably bled out and died. So that is an amazing item to have. Not only can you at a certain point put a certain amount of pressure, and all the instructions are on there, but again, know the side effects, pros and cons of using a tourniquet style item. But you could either use it again as a compress to wrap bandages around and keep the bandages tight on the wound, or complete blood circulation cutoff. That's the lowest of tourniquets. In the next video re-release of my IFAK, we'll talk about tourniquets a little bit more in depth and higher priced and more functional tourniquets. That's more of a 2-for-1, but I think very important piece of kit inside this system. Along with that, over here, a pair of safety shears, so that in an emergency situation you could cut the clothing and take care of that, and you wouldn't have to be worrying about trying to use a knife or something like that, and you can see the injury that's going on and better assess how do we need to take care of this. Then over here on this side, we have this little bungee shock top pouch, and I just have a few cloth rolled up bandages in there, so that's always good. If you don't need to use the tourniquet, SWAT tourniquet system, to just put a little bit of pressure, wrap up a finger that's been cut, something like that. And that's why I like this system as well. It gives you organization. Again, it's not just a big dump pouch, or it's not just a Ziploc bag. All this stuff is fumbling around. You don't really know where it is. You got to dump it out on the ground, in the snow, whatever, and then you're fumbling around trying to find the items that you need. This is all really organized, thought out, and then you can go right to what you need. If it's a serious injury, bam, you go to this pocket. If it's not so serious an injury, you can go over here, and you can assess the situation as you need. Now in the center here is just kind of this big dump pouch area, and I have two very large 8x10 pads. These pads are super thick, absorbent. They're awesome. I love them. You can cut them in half if the injury isn't as big. You can use these multiple times, and these are awesome for all types of different injuries. And going back to if there's a really serious gash, cut, puncture wound, you can apply this, and this is what I had to do in my emergency situation. Apply this to the wound, then wrap it in the SWAT tourniquet, and just follow the directions so you don't completely cut off circulation, basically, unless you feel the need to do so because of how much the blood is soaking through that pad. But those pads are awesome. Highly recommended. Cruising along here on the other pocket, we have some adhesive tape. Always good to have, medical tape. And then I have some smaller bandages, so if you don't feel the need to go through those big guys, I got 2 3x3s as well, so you can apply those in different ways. Finally, coming to the end of the line here, 3 different items. First off, triple antibiotic cream, always important, has so many different uses. A lot of people don't really think about this, but to get some saline eye drops, very important to have. You can, rinse out an eye wound of some kind, if there dust got in there, a splinter, something like that, and there was an injury of some kind in the eye. This is always a good way to help it, at least clear out the stuff, and you can see what's going on in there, and how bad the injury may be. And then finally over here we have some iodine, always important to have. Yeah, it burns and it hurts, but man, is it a helpful cleaning of the wound, and getting all the bacteria out of there. So folks, that's it. That's the interior, exterior of this bad boy. And you may be asking yourself through this video, why build my own medical kit? Why do a do-it-yourself medical kit versus just going to the store and buying one? Now, there's nothing necessarily wrong with those medical kits that exist out there that, you buy it, you forget it. But what I have found is that for less money, you can either build an exact same kit that exists out there, or a lot of times the items that you may see, they're all the same, but you get less of them. Instead of a full, triple antibiotic creamed, you know, a system like this, they're just going to give you a couple little pouches, you know, that are only going to take care of maybe 3-4 wounds. You know, instead of getting shears, they're only going to give you really tiny little scissors. You know, they're only going to give you maybe 2 painkillers versus, you know, your own and what you could do. There's usually less of what you get, and so for $50 ballpark, and what everything that you see here on the table, if you do it yourself, it takes a little bit more time. You know, it takes a little bit more energy and effort to build it yourself, but I think you'll be happier. You'll get a lot more bang for your buck. It's a higher value for you when you can do this and build it yourself. Again, nothing wrong with self-made medical kits. We reviewed them in the past. We'll review them in the future. But when you have the ability to build your own, that's always what I recommend. Well, folks, I want to thank you for coming along on this journey and digging through this medical kit. And I hope it started you on that journey of, let's be honest, getting prepared for not if a medical situation is going to happen on the trail, but when. So I hope that this is pointing you in the right direction and getting that ball rolling for you. As always, thank you so much for coming over here and checking out the channel. Please subscribe, comment, like, share this video. Love to hear you guys' thoughts. And always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and we'll see you out there.